Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our session today, Devices in the Enterprise. My name is Teju, and I'm on the product marketing team here at Okta. And I'm joined by a few folks here today. We'll start with the Okta team first. Ankit and Sai, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hey everyone, I'm Ankit Garg. I'm a group product manager at Okta and I lead our device identity and access area.
Hello, everyone. My name is Simon Dali, and I'm a senior product manager on our devices team here. Happy to be here and talk to you guys about devices roadmap.
Cool. Thanks, guys. And we're also joined by Emmanuel Sparvoli, head of IT at Intercom, and the whiz behind their Okta deployment. We'll hear from Emmanuel on how Okta has helped with their all up zero trust strategy. And Emmanuel, do you want to do a quick intro as well?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Emanuele. I'm the head of IT at Intercom and I lead both our support and IT infrastructure teams.
All right, so we know that the past year has forced us all to rethink our IT and security practices, and we've seen a few key trends across organizations of all sizes and all verticals. Now, the first is an accelerated need to adapt to long term remote work. Many of us were more or less forced to shift to a remote work model overnight. And for a lot of companies, that meant making sure that the VPN could handle hundreds, maybe even thousands of new daily connections. And for others, it meant maybe spinning up a new VPN infrastructure altogether. But looking into the future, we know that remote work is here to stay for many companies, which brings challenges around ensuring users can stay productive from anywhere, on any device, without experiencing more friction than what they saw in the corporate network. Then the second is that we need to rethink security for remote employees. This includes use cases like remote onboarding and offboarding of users, a more defined BYOD policy, and determining how to secure access to both on prem and cloud apps with multi factor authentication. And a note that if you're not already using MFA, please add that to your list of projects for this year. And then lastly, we see the need to rethink on-prem tools, especially tools like Active Directory. We know that Active Directory can't quite keep up with the shift to the cloud, and while AD may be here to stay for larger organizations, the shift to cloud apps is no longer a thing of the past. So we do start to see even these larger organizations reduce their dependency on tools like AD, on anything that's on-prem LDAP, even on-prem MFA solutions, and more, and really replacing these solutions with SaaS offerings to help accelerate and secure corporate resources. Now, even before the pandemic, interest in zero trust was being driven by a need to modernize the IT security stack. And of course, that continues to hold true today more than ever. Now, first, we know threat actors aren't slowing down. Remote work has opened many doors for threat actors to try new methods of gaining unauthorized access to data, since a lot of the protections that you have in place on prem may not be applicable when users are outside the office network. And actually, since February of last year, we've seen a 667% increase in spear phishing attacks. And not to mention the high profile breaches we've seen over the past months. For example, with SolarWinds, where one of their update servers' passwords was password123. And we also expect more flexibility in the workplace. How can you still keep employees secure regardless of their location? Now, in a survey that we conducted earlier last year, we found that 88% of IT leaders do anticipate more flexibility around remote work following the pandemic. Probably not a huge surprise there. And then lastly, we know zero trust is taking hold in a very meaningful way, with actually 275% year over year growth in the number of North American organizations that have planned or defined a zero trust strategy or have a zero trust strategy on the books over the next 12 months. We actually also conducted a survey around zero trust in 2020 and found that 60% of organizations in North America and 40% globally are currently working on zero trust projects. So that takes us to the fact that zero trust is now at the forefront of most organizations' security strategies. It may seem like a buzzword by now, but even for companies that may not explicitly call out zero trust in their strategy, the shift to moving to that perimeter-less based strategy is still top of mind. Now, with zero trust, the goal is really to ensure that the right people have the right level of access to your resources, to make sure that access is granted in the right context from anywhere on any device and assessed continuously. And of course, it all needs to be done without impacting end user experience. So for today's presentation, we're focused on Okta's device capabilities, but you'll see across the board with our products that we do adhere to zero trust principles. And so taking a look at what that means from a device's perspective will help you achieve your zero trust goals by first establishing and managing device identity in Universal Directory. Second, collecting device posture signals to incorporate into your policies. And third, enabling secure and seamless access with a focus on passwordless. Now, these are really our focus areas for devices in the upcoming months. So you'll see that the features we go through will align with these high-level goals. Now, before we jump into the features, briefly last year we introduced the concept of Okta Platform Services. These are really the underlying pillars of our product that power the features that you'll see us talk through today. And for today's conversation, we'll focus on the devices platform service and talk through what we've released in the past year and what's coming, along with a demo and conversation with Emmanuel on how Intercom is able to utilize the devices platform service to align with zero trust goals. Now with that, I'll pass it over to Sai, who will walk through what we've released in the past year. Over to you, Sai.
Awesome. Thank you, Teju. Hello, everyone. My name is Sai, and I'm going to be talking about everything that we've released since Octane 20 last year when it comes to our device platform and device capabilities. But before I dig into the features, I want to take you through a little history lesson and talk about Okta Verify, which is a core component of our device platform and our device trust story. Historically, Okta Verify has been a mobile app. It's been an authenticator that you could deploy onto your iOS, Android, managed phones, or BYOD devices, and it sent you push notifications and OTP to authenticate and access any Okta protected applications. But as you saw Teju talk about how zero trust strategy is evolving and how a lot of the modern security attacks since COVID are getting more and more advanced, one of the main things that we've built last year is how do we extend Okta Verify onto desktop also? And how do we make it something beyond just an authenticator that's used to give you access to applications? So what we have today is Okta Verify on all major platforms, iOS, Android, macOS, and Windows. And where we're really headed with this is how can Okta Verify become the integration layer and the single point of contact across all of your devices in your enterprise. And that can be done either via the Okta Verify application or Okta Verify the SDK. And what this enables you to do at the end of the day is no matter what type of device you have, whether it's a managed device, BYOD device, partner contracted devices, you have a single place to understand all the devices that are being used to access your Okta resources. And so you can now set very granular security policies, not just based on the user, but also based on the type of device they're coming from. So now with the framework that Teju laid out in terms of establishing device identity, getting device context, and building secure experiences, one of the first things that I want to talk to you about is how do you establish device identity and what changed here. So one of the new things here is how end users register or enroll into Okta Verify. Historically, the way this was done is you scanned a little barcode on your mobile phone, and what this did was create an enrollment in Okta Verify for that given user. But this worked really well for a lot of use cases. However, what you still needed for this is a laptop right in front of you, scan the barcode, and then get access to the app. And this worked well for many use cases. However, if you still only need to do mobile-only onboarding flows, for example, this was not really possible. So one of the things that you can do today on Identity Engine with Okta Verify is register and enroll into Okta Verify using just the sign-in URL. And what you can do on managed use cases is obviously deploy Okta Verify as a managed app with all the right configuration. So once a user registers or enrolls in Okta Verify, what that gives you as an admin is visibility into what device they're using. Historically, whenever a user enrolled in Okta Verify, you didn't really see whether they were coming from an iOS device, Android device. Is it managed? Is it not managed? But now this registration process takes it to a whole new level where you're able to see all the devices that users are using to access Okta resources. So as you can see on the right-hand side on the screenshot here, you're able to see the given user, what device they're using, the unique identifiers like UUID or Windows SID, and whether they're managed or unmanaged devices. And now you can take a whole range of actions on these devices, like suspending the device. For example, maybe your EDR solution said that a given device is malicious and you don't want any further access attempts from that device. And now you can suspend the device and deactivate it, so no access from that device is supported. And eventually, we will also be releasing API support for all of our device capabilities so you can build various use cases. And Ankit will be talking about this in his section. Now, one of the other core enhancements that we've made is around device trust. And this goes along the concept that Teju talked about, is how do you manage an established device context, right? And there's a few different things going on here. One of the first signals that a lot of our customers ask us about is, I want to understand whether a given device is managed or not. And what this enables you to do is say, for specific resources that are high risk, I only want to allow my end users to access these high risk resources from a managed company issued device, because you can attest to the security of the device that they're accessing from. And Okta gives you two methods of achieving this. First is if you have your own PKI like ADCS or Entrust, you can use that and upload the root chain into Okta, and Okta will use that to attest for device management. Okta also provides an Okta CA that's fully managed for you to achieve the same exact use case. And one of the most amazing things about this is it works across any device, regardless of how it's managed or what its domain joined status is, whether it's AD domain joined on or AAD or hybrid domain joined. And it stays true to our best of breed philosophy. And the same thing is true on mobile, where you can deploy managed mobile apps with the management hint, and you can get the managed signal. And what's also amazing about this is it goes beyond just getting the management signal. You can get more granular signals like, does this device have a TPM chip, which is a good indicator that it has biometrics, for example. Or, and it's also really important for NIST AL2 compliance. But you can also get operating systems like Mac OS or Windows or iOS or Android. And eventually we'll be expanding this with more and more signals. Now, you may be a customer that's using device trust that exists in the Okta Classic today, the cert-based device trust that's used with Jamf Pro and IWA on both mobile and desktop. Now, if you're a device trust customer today on desktop, we are building a seamless way for you to transition and upgrade to Identity Engine. And basically the way this works is Okta will upgrade you to Identity Engine whenever you're ready, and all your existing device trust enrollments will continue to work. And if a given cert is about to expire, you can also still continue to renew that on Identity Engine. However, for your net new devices, like new users, you have to roll out Okta Verify and Okta FastPass. And over time, you will need to move to Okta Verify and FastPass for your device trust solution. And we're going to make this as easy and as seamless as possible for you. Similarly, on mobile, it's a little different. You have to deploy the Okta Verify mobile app to your managed mobile devices first, along with the management hint, and Okta will upgrade you to Identity Engine. And then when you're upgraded to Identity Engine, Okta will automatically prompt the end users to register and enroll in Okta Verify, like I showed you earlier. And this is a very seamless process, and then users will be able to access their device trust protected applications without any downtime. If you're an existing device trust customer, please reach out to your Okta contact for more information. And keeping along the line of security context, one of the other things that we're building is a plugin framework into Okta Verify. So you can add plugins into Okta Verify to get signals from various EDR solutions that are running on your desktops. Today, the two plugins we have are Windows Security Center and CrowdStrike. So for example, with CrowdStrike calculates a score called Zero Trust Assessment based on 30 different signals that their EDR sensor, that CrowdStrike Falcon sensor calculates. And Okta Verify talks to the Falcon sensor at the time of authentication, and then you can use that signal in your authentication policy to either allow or deny access. So you can say, hey, if the Zero Trust Assessment score is greater than 60, allow access. If it's less, deny access. And similarly, you can do with Windows Security Center, get signals like firewall enable, disable, or antivirus turned off, turn on to set signals. This is only supported on Windows today, but it'll soon be coming to macOS in Q2 of this year. Now that you've established device context and you've seen different ways you can understand the device security, what this will enable you to do is build better security experiences for your end users. Because you understand the security risk of all the devices, you can feel comfortable achieving passwordless use cases. And this is where FastPass comes in. So FastPass is an experience where your end users can authenticate into Okta using the Okta Verify app without the need for a password. And we use native platform authenticators like Touch ID, Windows Hello, or Face ID to make the access experience even more secure. And Teju will be showing a demo of this to you soon. And keep in mind that this works across all devices, regardless of how they're managed or what operating system they're running. And one of the other features that a lot of you have been asking for a long time is self-service password reset with Okta Verify. Historically, you could do self-service password reset, but with only factors like SMS, OTP, or security question. Now, we've extended this core capability to support Okta Verify, and I'm really, really excited to announce that you can do self-service password reset with Okta Verify factors. And over time, we will be evolving this to support various use cases, like maybe you can only do self-service password reset from a managed device, but that's definitely further down on the roadmap. But you can do this today on Okta Identity Engine. And one of the other new things that we've also built is a better integration with our Okta Risk Engine. So if you're using risk-based auth and Okta detects that a given access attempt is high risk, Okta will take an extra step with your Okta Verify push notification to deem that a given access request is safe. And the way we do that is if risk-based auth says like a given access is high risk, Okta will prompt the user for a number on their sign-in widget. It is the right number on their mobile phone. This ensures that the end user is not blindly accepting the push notification, but they are cautiously picking and understanding the app that they're logging into, which should save a lot of any phishing attacks that may happen. Now, I talked about a lot of things, and I want to make it tangible. And Teju put together an awesome demo that we're going to show that'll tie all these features together. Thank you for your time.
Hey everyone, this is Teju, and in this demo, we'll take a look at how all these cool new devices features come together to deliver secure and seamless end user experiences. So let's get started. Here I'm in our lovely new admin console, and I will start by going into our device management section. So there's a couple of things here we want to check out. The first one, I'm actually going to head over to the Cert Authority tab. A couple of things here. In this specific demo, we'll be using the Okta Certificate Authority, and you can see that listed here. But if you did have another CA that you're already using, which issues client certificates for you, and you want to continue using that with Okta's device trust to check if the device is managed, you can come in here and upload that root certificate. Now, the next portion of this is actually setting up the platforms that you'd want to have configured for device trust. Now, here is where you're going to choose those platforms. In this specific demo, I've chosen to check device trust state for desktops, specifically for Windows, but then it'll ask you for a couple of other settings. So first is which CA do you want to use? Again, in this case, we'll use the Okta CA. And then also, depending on the endpoint management tool you're going to use, you'll go through different steps for the SCEP URL. Most endpoint management vendors, you would choose a static SCEP URL, and we will generate that. If you are using Microsoft Endpoint Manager, so that will include Intune, you would choose the delegated SCEP URL and enter this information, which you'll get from Azure AD. Let's head over to the actual application policies. So I will go to Office 365 is where I'm configuring and demoing. So in the sign-on policies for Office 365, we'll look at a couple of things. So the first one is that I have a policy that's basically the top priority, which says that if the device firewall is not turned on, and if the antivirus is not turned on a Windows device, then access should be denied. So what this means is that when users log into Okta, the Okta Verify app on the desktop will check for the status of the firewall and for antivirus. Now, this would be happening as a result of our integration with Windows Security Center. If those settings are deemed to be poor, or basically if those are turned off, access is going to be denied. Now, the other setting that I have here is for how FastPass will be facilitated. Now, in this case, what I've said is that any registered and managed Windows device can access Office 365 as long as there is a possession factor in place, as long as that factor is device bound. In this case, Okta Verify would fit that. And Okta Verify user interaction is required, which means that you'll see that I'm prompted for Windows Hello as I'm logging into Office. And the other cool thing I wanted to point out is that we actually show you in the UI here which factors would meet these requirements. So in this case, you can see that Okta Verify with using FastPass plus combination of Windows Hello. And then also if you have a FIDO2 key, that would fit these assurance requirements as well. And then I have the re-authentication set to once per device, although I can change this to say, every sign-in attempt as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this one. So now that we've taken a look at what all of this looks like as far as setup goes on the admin side, let's take a look at what this looks like for end users. So we're on our end user device here, and we can see that it's already registered to Okta using Okta Verify. Now we want to take a look at what those admin settings around FastPass and the Windows Security Center integration look like in terms of login to Office 365. Now, a couple things to check before we start logging in. First, we can see that this device is managed by an MDM. In this case, it's managed by Microsoft Endpoint Manager. The second thing that we can verify is that the device does have a certificate on it that is coming from the Okta CA, and we can verify that by taking a look at the issuer, where we can see that the Okta certificate authority shows up. So that looks good. Okta will see this device as managed. Now, the last thing that we want to check is that the antivirus and firewall are enabled. So we can see virus and threat protection is good to go, firewall is good to go, which means that, again, we should be able to log in to Office 365. Now, let's go ahead and verify that's the case. So I'm going to do an SP initiated flow to Office 365 here. I'll enter my email address. I'm going to use Okta Verify on this device. So now it'll prompt me for Windows Hello authentication. And now that I've provided that, I should be logged in to Office 365 without any additional prompts, no password prompt as you saw, because the device is managed and secure. Now, we want to take a look at what the end user experience would look like if I were to actually disable the threat protection and firewall. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll turn off the real-time protection, and I'll turn off all these other AV settings. Now, similarly with the firewall, I'm going to go ahead and turn off everything. Everything is now disabled, and going back into the Windows Security Center, we see both virus and threat protection and the firewall are turned off. So now let's see what that end user experience looks like if I try to log into Outlook using the thick client. Now I'm going to go ahead and choose to sign in. It'll prompt me to again sign in using Okta Verify on this device. It'll open up the Okta Verify app, ask me for Windows Hello again. Okay, so provided Windows Hello authentication and the device is registered, but because the firewall and antivirus are disabled, I'm not able to log in, which we expected. So now, just to make sure that this is definitely working as expected, let's go back and actually re-enable the threat protection. And let's also re-enable the firewall. Turn on all the settings that we need to. Okay, so now we see threat protection, virus and threat protection are good. Firewall is good. Now let me close out of Outlook again and try to log back in. This time we should expect that I'm able to log in successfully because the device is again managed and is now secure as we re-enable the virus and firewall settings. So again, provide Windows Hello. Okay. And yep, great. We can see here that I was able to sign in to Office and I should be able to access my email, again, because we re-enabled those security settings. So that's an example of how FastPass and our endpoint detection and response integrations work together to provide users with a great login experience to all of their apps that are connected to Okta. Hope that was a helpful demo. Thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, this is Ankit again. Now, wasn't that an exciting demo? We have delivered a ton of innovation on the Okta Devices Platform service over the last year. Now let's switch gears and talk about what's next for the Devices Platform service. The very first thing I want to talk about is unmanaged devices. Now, this is pretty common in enterprises where enterprises allow their employees to use their personal mobile phones to do work on the go. You may be accessing your email, replying to your boss or a colleague. You may be using Slack or Salesforce on your mobile phone, and this is a pretty common occurrence. Now, the issue with this is that most admins don't understand the security posture of these devices. I'm glad to say with Okta Verify, we'll be able to solve this problem. Using Okta Verify, we'll be able to look at some basic device security posture information, such as OS version, which needs to line up with what your organization's compliance policy is, whether the device has a PIN code on it or not, and whether the user may have jailbroken the device or not. Now, these signals are all really important to prevent your corporate data from leaving to a device which is not secure and getting accessed by an attacker. You'll be able to use all these signals in Okta's policy layer to allow or deny access or step up in certain scenarios. But you can also use these signals to determine if the user gets a great experience using Okta FastPass. This is something we are starting to work on and would be available in second half of this year. Now, the other piece of feedback we heard from our customers as they were testing out the beta for the devices platform service was that they wanted more control over how many devices the user can enroll using Okta Verify, whether they're allowed to even enroll their personal devices at all or not. So we'll be adding that to the product. In our policy engine, you'll be able to specify how many devices the user can enroll and whether they're allowed to enroll a personal device or not. This improvement is also targeted for the second half of this year. So now we talked about how we'll be giving you more control over what can enroll. But we have collected all these signals from endpoint management tools, endpoint detection response tools, and we'll be feeding all of this into Okta's risk engine such that you can have a simplified way in how you manage your risk policies. You'll be able to specify if an attempt is high risk based on all these signals from endpoint management tools like Jamf, VMware, etc., even Okta Verify for that matter. You'll be able to choose whether you want to allow deny access or prompt for MFA. Now, we understand that all customers may have different requirements around this. Some may want a simplified view where they want to assess risk, and some may need more granular control. Now, we'll provide both these options to customers and you'll be able to choose which way you want to go. This is also something which we plan to deliver in second half of this year. Now, switching gears, talking about the improvements we are making for end users. Now, one of the big things we believe in is no end user wants to harm their company by leaking corporate information. So we'll be exposing the information about their device security profile to them using Okta Verify app. And this drives just good end user behavior and hygiene on the end user path. You'll be able to see whether the OS version is up to date and in align with what your company's policy is, whether you have jailbroken your device or not, have you enabled Face ID, Touch ID or not, which is available on most devices today and highly recommended if you want to be secure. This is also something which we'll make available in the second half of this year. Now, talking a little bit about the Okta Verified desktop app. What we have today is we have built a mechanism in Okta Verify desktop app for you to accomplish passwordless on the same device itself. We have also heard from customers that there are use cases and scenarios where Okta Verify desktop app could be even more useful. For example, on factories and call center flows, a lot of times users are not allowed to bring their mobile or personal devices in. So Okta Verify desktop could be your mechanism to accomplish MFA. And further along, you can also use this to reset your password. It could be a way for you to generate an OTP and quickly reset your password as well. It gives users more flexibility where they cannot use their mobile phones or any other hardware tokens. Now let's switch gears and talk about what kind of integration workflows will enable administrators to automate. Some of the common scenarios we have heard from customers is there is a user offboarding scenario. Let's say an employee leaves your company. You would deactivate their user in Okta. And the other most common action you take is you go into your management tool, whether it be VMware or Mobile Iron, and you will deprovision that user's device. Now, we'll be helping you automate this process easily using Okta workflows. When a user gets deactivated in Okta, we'll be able to send an event into the Okta workflows engine, which can then call into your management tool and deprovision the user's device to remove any corporate data which may exist. So this helps you automate the workflow and simplifies the administrator's life. The second workflow I want to talk about is a security operations workflow, where let's say your endpoint detection tool like CrowdStrike or Windows Security Center detects that the device has malware on it. And these tools can then send a webhook or event into our Okta workflows engine, which can then call into Okta's APIs to kill any Okta sessions or app sessions which may exist on that device. So with that, we'll be able to really help you automate some of these processes. All of these devices APIs are going to be available for you to use with other tools which may exist in your environment for automation as well. These are not hard coded to work only with Okta workflows. Now, with that, let me sum it up. We are building this device identity platform to work with all the endpoint security tools you may have in your environment, and Okta Verify is going to be an important piece of that puzzle as well. Once all of this device security profile information comes into Okta's device platform service, we'll marry it with user identity, and you'll be able to drive security and end user experiences as you desire. If a device is unmanaged, for example, you will be able to prompt your end users to enroll in management or flatly deny access. If the user is on a known or managed device, you could drive a passwordless experience using Okta FastPass. But if a user does not have, for example, a PIN code or biometric enabled on their device, you should be able to prompt them to remediate that before you can actually grant access to them on that particular device. Now, with that, I would like to hand it over to Teju and Emmanuel to talk about how Intercom is using some of these capabilities or plans to use them in the future.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ankit. All right, for the rest of this session, I'm really excited to talk to Emmanuel on how Intercom has been able to use a lot of these capabilities that you've heard Ankit and Sai go through. So, Emmanuel, do you want to start by giving us an overview of how Intercom is using Okta today?
Sure, thanks, Teju, and welcome everyone. I'm very happy to be here to share how Intercom is leveraging some of these new capabilities. So first, let me give you a little introduction about Intercom. We are a conversational relationship platform that delivers personalized messenger-based experiences. We do this for sales, marketing, and customer support teams. And our technology goes beyond the typical live chat you see because we aim to deliver contextual conversational experiences at scale. We have around 700 employees across 5 countries. Our infrastructure is based on zero trust, 100% in the cloud, and we have an heavily automated identity lifecycle, also thanks to Okta workflows. We are also SOC 2 ISO and DIPA compliant. So now let's take a look on how we tackle identity and access management at Intercom. We have 3 pillars in our strategy. We have not defined perimeter. Our users and devices are the endpoints. We verify trust in our user identities through multi-factor authentication and context-based access policies. And we verify trust in devices through endpoints management and security policy compliances. In this scenario, what are our challenges? Our environment is really mixed with macOS Windows machines, for example. And in the past couple of years, we evaluated all the existing solutions on the market and found that they have one or more of these limitations. For example, they work only for macOS, or they require some on-prem infrastructure, and sometimes they have limited or no granularity in access policies, which is something that we really need. So here enter the new Okta devices capabilities. This is a very high-level overview of how we implemented these new features. So let's take a look. When a user requests access, they go through the normal identity verification flow, and this is evaluated based on several factors. For example, one-time code, push notification, an hardware security key like a YubiKey, or biometric authentication like Touch ID or Windows Hello. Once the identity trust is established, we move to evaluate the context, the device context. This is done based on specific app policies that we set for each of our apps. For example, we may be a bit more stringent for our high-risk systems. What we look for? We look for things like, is the device managed or not? Is it compliance with all the policies that we deployed with Microsoft Intune or Jamf? Does it belong to the specific user that is asking for access? If everything checks out, then device trust is de facto established, and we grant access. You may think this actually looks easy, and that's because it is, and it's done 100% in the cloud and through Okta, so no on-prem infrastructure whatsoever. This has been great for us, and this really opens a lot of possibility. Even just the fact that we know if the device is managed or not, it opens a lot of avenues for us to step up our security game.
Great. Thanks, Emmanuel. That's an awesome overview of how you guys are using Okta today. So I have a couple of questions for you. Let's start by talking about how you plan to adapt to a longer-term remote work model by incorporating BYOD into your policies. Are there any significant differences you might see in how personal devices would be handled differently in comparison to IT-owned devices?
So far, our stance has been to either block or require enrollment. We look forward to these new features that don't require an NDM to evaluate the posture of the device. This is definitely going to enhance our BYOD policies by removing the friction that right now is present. And that's definitely going to balance, it's going to help us find the balance between security and productivity.
Cool. Yeah, I know BYOD definitely a more prominent topic in the past year with so many of us working remotely. So now let's talk about something we're all very excited about, which is passwordless. Now, you mentioned that earlier that the posture of the device basically informs how access is granted in Okta. So can you tell us a little bit more about how this context will be used to drive decisions around passwordless authentication?
Sure. Right now, we are still ironing out what our final policy is going to be, but we did extensive testing on some of our less critical apps. For example, the user dashboard, and we have enabled passwordless for the user dashboard for people that are using trusted devices. We really like the fact that we can eliminate the password as one of the factors, and definitely FastPass is going to enable this. Not only through Okta Verify, but also by incorporating some other factors. Our aim is to, over time, completely eliminate the password and relegate it to a role of like the last result fallback.
Awesome. Yeah, I know all of us at Okta dream of the day where we don't have to type in passwords anywhere. So another question for you, Ankit talked earlier about how we want to drive better end user behavior by basically exposing the posture of devices through Okta Verify, right? So, for example, within the Okta Verify app, the user could see if they're on the most recent OS version, if they need to add a biometric or whatever it may be. So, what are your thoughts on a security model where end users have more visibility and control over their account?
We actually welcome that very much. Historically, we are a team that leverages automation and self-serve workflows for support. This is actually very exciting for us because as a team, we historically leveraged automation and self-serve for our support flows. And this is going to enable the users to take care of the security posture, and it's going to eliminate a lot of frictional downtimes for our support team.
Great. Now, one more question for you, also around end user experience. How do you expect FastPass to preserve end user experience and also the day to day login? Any initial feedback you may have from employees that are testing it out or using it?
Usually, when you perform a migration to new processes and workflows for access management, there's a lot of feedback that comes in, and it's not always positive. In this case, everybody seems to be really happy with the passwordless experience that we enabled to the Okta dashboard. There's been no issue in their day-to-day work, and we look forward to the new features to see how this platform evolves and enables a better day-to-day experience and removes frictions for everyone at Intercom.
Thanks again, Emmanuel, for joining us today. I'm definitely excited for the continued partnership between Okta and Intercom and looking forward to speaking again soon. Thanks. So that wraps up our devices session for today. I really wanted to thank everyone for joining us. We enjoyed sharing our roadmap with you. Now, for those of you who are using these devices features, we definitely welcome the feedback. So keep that coming. And we'll stick around here for a couple more minutes in case you guys have any more questions. Feel free to drop those into the chat and we'll answer them. Thanks again.